Okay, yeah. And maybe it's a common myth only, like, matlab, people assume it like, and as you have said, like, it depends on the different kids. Like, everyone has its own different milestone. Like, yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. It must be one of the questions from like parents side. My toddler mixes language in the same sentence. Is this normal?
Very normal, and it's actually a sign that your toddler's advancing really well because now they're being able to understand meanings of two different words from two different languages and they're putting it together in a sentence. So that actually shows that they're comprehending both languages really well. So that's a good sign. Don't worry about that.
Okay. And what should be the concern if the parents are concerned because my child prefer one language over the other?
Yeah, so that can happen actually because, for example, children when they go to school, they're exposed more to English. They tend to have inclination towards speaking in English versus some language that you might be speaking at home. In
Yeah.
this case, one thing that you can do is whatever language you feel they're not speaking really well, or they're not, or they have a apprehension towards that language, make that language more fun. So read to them in that language, talk to them in that language, expose them more and more to a language which they're not innately preferring. And in most cases, actually, it's a regional language because with English, they're exposed to it in school, they're exposed in songs, in all the fun activities that they're
Yeah,
doing. English comes very
yeah,
naturally.
yeah.
So if you feel that there is a certain imbalance, one language is not being that well preferred, then make that language more fun when the child comes back home.
Yeah, normally it's like we go from the regional language to English. Like once they join the preschool,
Correct.
then they are more converse in English. Like, and these are the like parenting questions. Like, because initially they talk in Hindi or the mother tongue, and now my kids are going to the preschool, whether they will learn it. And as you have said, they are like quick learners. They will definitely grasp that the new language taught like now.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And should and is there like a scenario that we should focus on only one language over the other, or like before introducing to the other languages, like
No, you can introduce two, three languages all at once. That's absolutely okay. One approach that you can take is that one person, one language, which basically means that if there's a mother and a father, maybe the mother talks in one language and the father talks in one language, and then the grandparent talks in a third language, so that the child has distinct communication areas with each person speaking one language, and then they kind of pick it up a little bit better. Or then a home language versus a school language. So one place, one language. One language is spoken at home, one language is spoken in school. And again, that's an easier connection to make. In this, also, you might have noticed that they tend to communicate with the mother in a language that the father is talking to them. All of the confusion can
yeah,
happen, which is okay.
it
But
can
try
be
to stick to
confusing, like
either,
yeah.
yeah, so try to stick to either one place, one language, or one person, one language, rather than having a lot of different conversations going into multiple different languages, because that gets a bit confusing then.
Yeah, yeah. And what are the most common causes of speech delay in young children? Like,
So one of the most common reasons could be maybe some kind of intellectual impairment, some kind of genetic disorder. But if we kind of put that aside, because that's a whole area of conversation in itself, even things like hearing infections, a lot of chronic hearing infections, maybe if the child has hearing loss, all of these things can also decrease the speech ability. So there are multiple factors which contribute towards a speech delay. It could be ear related, it could be intellectual related. There are different causes.
okay, it can be genetic, like, but it takes like a different milestone is there, like for different kids, like to maybe like it takes more time for the other kid to learn it, like because
That's a
what we
genetic.
see like in the urban parenting thing, because of the nuclear family setup like thing, as you have said, like the both the parents are working and they don't have time to like interact with the kids, and this can cause like a speech delay, like if no one is at home around them
That's true. And
like
then the
yeah,
question
yeah,
is that is the child using the screen a lot?
yeah,
Because the
yeah,
screen can't fulfill the interaction which a human being can. Because with any human interaction, what we're actually doing for a child is we're returning a serve that they've made. It's like playing a game of tennis. If they're throwing a ball at us, we're returning it back. So, for example, it's a very bi-directional communication, like what you and I are having right now. If I'm saying that this is a ball, you're telling me that, yeah, the ball is blue and it's shiny and it's big. So we're having that conversation rather than a child looking at a screen, which is just feeding it information, but nothing is really making sense because that meaning the conversation is lost. So what we found is that actually educational apps, even if it's something which is tailored towards children, doesn't do that much good. What is really worthwhile for children is a serve and return communication, which can only happen with a human being. It can't happen with screens, unfortunately. So I think you're right that the biggest challenge that children nowadays are facing, and when they come with speech delay, one of the most common causes is excessive screen usage, because that takes away from all the real world conversations that the child could be having or should be having at their age.
Definitely. And it applies to like the us also, like parents like us also, like once the digital transformation is like evolving, we are more on like texting and less of a social life. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely it can be like. And can frequent ear infection impacts a child ability to learn language like?
Yeah. So if you think about it, the easiest way we learn language is when we hear it, right? And for a young child, that's the first way that they learn language. So if there's any kind of decrease in hearing, maybe it could be muffled sounds because of ear infections. Chronic ear infections over time also decrease the capacity to listen. So yeah, those do cause speech delay.
And how do screen time and technology uses affect like language acquisition?
So I think we touched upon this earlier, but basically it takes away from all the real world conversations that a child should be having at their age.
Yeah. So we don't have any question as of such. Um, we could like to conclude. If you want to give some parenting advice, just like a one-liner to our audience, like what should be the speech on this speech delay and milestone achievement?
Yeah,
Can
sure. Sure. So let me close off by saying three things that I think all parents should remember. One is read to your child as much as you can. Talk to your child as much as you can. Describe your day, describe everything that you're doing to them if you want a good vocabulary base for your child. And the last thing is don't compare children to other children. Everybody's not built alike. Everyone takes their own time to get to a certain stage.
Yeah, definitely. So thank you, doctor, for a
Thank you
valuable
so
insight.
much.
Like,
Thank
and I
you.
think it must be very useful for the parenting community. And we look forward for more session with you. Like, you have explained it so like simply that everyone can relate to it and can definitely get some good advice from you. Like,
Thank you. Thank you so much.
thank
Thank
you,
you.
thank you, doctor.